The billionaire's laughter, a second chance at joy. You won't believe what happened next. Imagine a world where unimaginable wealth can't buy happiness, and a father's heart is as broken as his son's spirit. What if a sudden, shocking truth could shatter years of guilt and pain, leading to an ending you'd never expect? "I don't want to do exercises," shrieked Leo, his small fists pounding the wheels of his chair. "Leave me alone." Maya knelt before him, her yellow gloves glowing under the soft glow of the living room lamp as she held a therapy ball. Despite the hostility in his eyes, she remained calm. "Leo, we just need to try a few simple movements to—" "No," the 12-year-old interrupted, pushing the ball away. "You're just like all the others. Dad will fire you like the rest." From the doorway, Mr. Thorne, Leo's father, watched, arms crossed. His immaculate suit contrasted sharply with the tense scene. His face held the same cold expression it had for the past 2 years. "Leo's right," Mr. Thorne said, his voice clipped. "The other 6 therapists lasted less than a month each. What makes you think you'll be any different, Ms. Ramirez?" Maya slowly rose, her gaze unwavering from the boy. Her eyes reflected determination, not defeat. "Because I won't give up," she replied, her subtle Spanish accent firm. "And because Leo needs someone who understands that healing isn't just about exercises." Mr. Thorne scoffed, approaching with measured steps. "Ms. Ramirez, this is a job, not a charity mission. My son needs professional physical therapy, not fairy tales." "And what do you need, Mr. Thorne?" Maya challenged, turning to face him boldly. "More excuses to avoid being present in your son's life?" Silence stretched through the room. Leo looked at his father expectantly, bracing for an explosive reaction. But Mr. Thorne only clenched his jaw. "You know nothing about my family," he murmured, his voice dangerously calm. "I know enough," Maya retorted. "I know this child has lost more than the use of his legs. He's lost his dad too." Mr. Thorne took a step towards her, but Leo's voice stopped him. "Stop!" the boy cried, tears welling in his eyes. "It's always the same. Someone new comes, you two fight, and then they leave." The room fell into absolute silence. Leo hung his head, his shoulders trembling. "I don't want you to leave," he whispered. "But I also don't want to do stupid exercises that don't help." Maya approached him again, slower this time. She sat on the floor at his eye level. "You know what? You're right. Normal exercises are boring," she said with a smile. "What if we play a game instead?" Leo looked at her suspiciously. "Play what? Have you ever been a pirate?" Maya asked, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Mr. Thorne watched from his spot, still tense but intrigued by Leo's shift in attitude. "Pirates are silly," Leo murmured, but without the earlier hostility. "Ah, but that's because you haven't met Captain Leo the Brave," Maya responded, adopting a dramatic voice. "I've heard he's the cleverest pirate on all the seas." For the first time in months, Leo's lips curved slightly upward. "Really? Really? But he needs to find a very special treasure hidden in this house. Do you think you could help him?" Leo looked at his father, who remained motionless but attentive. "Can Dad play too?" he asked in a small voice. Mr. Thorne tensed, but before he could refuse, Maya interjected. "Pirates always need a good first mate," she said, looking directly at Mr. Thorne. "What do you say, sir? Are you ready for an adventure?" Mr. Thorne looked at his son, then at Maya, feeling something strange in his chest. It had been so long since he'd seen hope in Leo's eyes. "Me? I have work," he began, but Leo's expression immediately crumpled. "Of course, you always have work," the boy murmured, retreating into his shell. Maya stood up and looked at Mr. Thorne with a mix of defiance and pleading. "The most valuable treasure any pirate can find is right here," she said softly. "You just need to decide if it's worth searching for." Mr. Thorne stood there, feeling the weight of Maya's words and his son's expectant gaze. For the first time in 2 years, the house didn't feel completely empty. "All right," he said finally, loosening his tie. But only for an hour. Leo's face lit up with a small but genuine smile, and Maya felt something had changed in that room. It was just the beginning, but it was a beginning. A new crew and a hidden treasure. 3 weeks had passed since Maya arrived at the Thorne residence, and the transformation was undeniable. The main living room had become the bridge of a pirate ship, with sheets draped from the ceiling like sails and cushions strategically placed as sea obstacles. "Captain Leo!" Maya shouted from the other end of the room, a red bandana tied around her head. "The sea monsters have blocked the path to Treasure Island." Leo skillfully maneuvered his wheelchair between the cushions, laughing as he dodged the tentacles Maya waved with a rope. "They can't stop us," Leo responded, brandishing a cardboard sword. "We're the bravest pirates in the ocean." From the staircase, Mr. Thorne watched the scene with a mix of astonishment and something akin to nostalgia. His son moved with an agility he hadn't shown in months, spinning and navigating his chair as if it were an extension of his body. "First Mate Thorne," Maya called to him. "We need reinforcements." Mr. Thorne slowly descended the stairs, still in his dress shirt, but without the tie he'd abandoned on the first day of games. "What does the captain need?" "The cannons," Leo exclaimed. "We have to shoot the monsters." For the next hour, Mr. Thorne found himself crawling on the floor, making explosion sounds, and pretending to be defeated by his son's strategic skills. When they finally found the treasure, a box of cookies Mrs. Henderson had hidden, all three collapsed on the sofa, breathing heavily. "That was amazing," Leo said, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "Can we be astronauts tomorrow?" "If you want," Maya replied, tucking loose strands of hair behind her ear. "But first, you need to rest, Captain." Mr. Thorne looked at his son, noticing something he hadn't seen in a long time. Leo was genuinely happy. His eyes sparkled with the same mischievous glint he'd had before the accident. "Dad," Leo said, turning to him, "are you staying for dinner tonight?" The question caught Mr. Thorne by surprise. For months, he'd eaten alone in his office or at a downtown restaurant. I have some reports to review." "Please," Leo insisted. "Maya says she's cooking Spanish paella. I've never tried paella." Mr. Thorne looked at Maya, who shrugged with a smile. "It's just paella," she said. "Nothing out of this world." "All right," Mr. Thorne conceded. "I'll stay for dinner." That night, as Maya cooked and Leo told her about his adventures of the day, Mr. Thorne found himself truly present for the first time in years. The kitchen filled with the aroma of saffron and seafood, and the sound of Leo's laughter. "How did you learn to cook?" Leo asked, watching fascinated as Maya stirred the pan. "My grandma taught me," Maya replied with a nostalgic smile. "She used to say that a meal made with love could cure any sadness." "Does your grandma live in Spain?" Mr. Thorne asked, noticing a subtle change in Maya's expression. "Not anymore," she answered softly. "She and my parents, and my little brother Mateo, died 3 years ago in a mudslide." Silence spread through the kitchen. Leo stopped playing with his cutlery and looked at Maya with understanding eyes. "That's why you're here," the boy said with wisdom beyond his years. "Like us. Because sometimes families break." Maya nodded, gently touching Leo's head. "But also because sometimes they can be fixed in new ways," she added, briefly looking at Mr. Thorne. After dinner, while Leo watched TV in the living room, Mr. Thorne helped Maya wash the dishes. It was a strange domestic moment for him, accustomed to others handling these tasks. "Thank you," Mr. Thorne said as he dried a plate, "for what you do with Leo. I hadn't seen him so happy since the accident," Maya completed softly. Mr. Thorne nodded, feeling the familiar knot in his stomach. "It was my fault," he murmured. "If I hadn't insisted on taking him to the game that night, if I had waited for the rain to pass." "Edward," Maya said, stopping his hands with hers. "Accidents happen. You don't define who you are by one moment in your life." Mr. Thorne looked at their joined hands, feeling a warmth he had forgotten existed. "How do you do it?" he asked her. "How do you keep going after losing your family?" "Day by day," Maya replied. And by finding new reasons to smile, like Leo's laughter, like seeing you play with your son after so long. Their gazes met, and Mr. Thorne felt something stir in his chest, something he had kept buried for 2 years. They were close, very close, and for a moment the outside world ceased to exist. Maya, Dad! Maya! Leo shouted from the living room. Come see this! The moment was broken, but the electricity remained in the air as they headed to the living room, where Leo had found a documentary about space. Can we go to the moon tomorrow? He asked with sparkling eyes. Mr. Thorne looked at Maya, who smiled knowingly. Of course, Captain, Mr. Thorne replied. But this time, I want to be the ship's commander. Leo laughed, and Mr. Thorne realized that for the first time in a long time, he was eager to come home early the next day. A rainbow, a secret, and a shocking truth. Houston, we have a problem, Leo shouted from his spaceship, improvised with cardboard boxes. Commander Thorne is running out of oxygen. Mr. Thorne, wearing a helmet made of aluminum foil, pretended to dramatically suffocate on the garden floor. I must reach the space station, he theatrically gasped. I'll save you, Dad. Leo maneuvered his chair towards him, laughing so hard he could barely speak. Take my extra oxygen tank. Maya watched from her position as mission control, her heart full at the sight of the complicity between father and son. It had been 2 months since she arrived at that house, and the transformation was extraordinary. Mission accomplished, astronauts, she announced. It's time to return to Earth for lunch. During lunch, Mr. Thorne stayed, as he had begun to do every day for the past 3 weeks. Mrs. Henderson served the food with a smile she hadn't shown in years. You know what, Maya? Leo said while chewing. Yesterday my friend Tom asked if you were my new mom. Mr. Thorne almost choked on his water. Maya blushed slightly. And what did you tell him? She asked. Everything I'd like to, Leo replied naturally. Because moms stay forever, right? An awkward silence filled the dining room. Mr. Thorne looked at Maya, who seemed unsure how to respond. Leo, Mr. Thorne began. Maya is your therapist, but she's also our friend. And families can have different forms, right? Leo interrupted. You always say the important thing is to love each other. Mr. Thorne felt a lump in his throat. It was true. He used to say that before the accident when his world still made sense. That afternoon, while Leo took his nap, Mr. Thorne found Maya in the garden, reading under the jacaranda tree. She looked serene, her hair loose, moved by the breeze. May I sit? He asked. Of course, she replied, closing the book. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the sound of the fountain's water. What Leo said at lunch, Mr. Thorne began. Kids say things unfiltered. Maya interrupted him. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried, Mr. Thorne said, surprising himself. It made me think. Maya looked at him curiously. About what? Mr. Thorne took a deep breath. About how long it's been since I felt alive. Since the accident, I've only existed. I work, I eat, I sleep, but I don't live. Until you arrived. Maya felt her heart race. Edward, you gave me my son back, he continued. But you also gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. The ability to be happy. He moved a little closer to her on the garden bench. Maya, I know this is complicated. I'm your boss. You came here to work. But nothing is as we thought it would be, she completed softly. Do you feel it too? Mr. Thorne asked, vulnerability in his voice. Maya slowly nodded. Since the first day I saw you play with Leo, I saw the man you were before the pain. And I fell in love with that man. Mr. Thorne took her hand, intertwining their fingers. I'm scared, he admitted. Scared of losing someone I love again. I'm scared too, Maya whispered. But I'm more afraid of wasting this opportunity to be happy. They moved slowly closer, their lips mere inches apart. Mr. Thorne could feel Maya's breath. He could see the golden flecks in her brown eyes. Dad! Maya! Leo shouted from his bedroom window. Come see. There's a rainbow. They abruptly separated, laughing nervously. The moment had passed, but something had irrevocably changed between them. That night, after Leo had fallen asleep, Mr. Thorne waited for Maya in the kitchen. "Can I make you some coffee?" he offered. "I'd love some," she replied. As Mr. Thorne prepared the coffee, Maya sat at the counter, observing his movements. There was something homely and natural about the scene. "Do you ever imagine a different life?" Mr. Thorne asked as he poured the cups. "What do you mean?" "A life where you don't have to go back to your apartment every night. Where you wake up here with us," he said, sitting across from her. "A life where Leo is right and we're a real family." Maya smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "It sounds beautiful," she said. "But are you sure it's not just gratitude? I helped you with Leo, and it's natural for you to feel." "Maya," Mr. Thorne interrupted, taking her face in his hands. "What I feel for you has nothing to do with gratitude. It has to do with the way my heart races when I see you, with how I look forward to coming home every day, because I know you'll be here, with how you make me feel like I can be a good man again." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. "Edward, The sound of the phone abruptly interrupted them. Mr. Thorne looked at the screen and frowned. "It's my lawyer," he said. "It's too late for him to call unless it's urgent." He answered the call, and Maya watched as his expression gradually shifted from confusion to shock, and finally to something akin to terror. "I understand, yes. We'll talk tomorrow." He hung up the phone with trembling hands. "What's wrong?" Maya asked, alarmed. Mr. Thorne pulled away from her, as if he had suddenly remembered a painful reality. "Sophia Miller is suing me again," he said, his voice hollow. "The woman from the other car. Her lawyer found new witnesses who say I was speeding." "But that's not true," Maya said, standing up. "The police report." "The police report could be wrong," Mr. Thorne interrupted, his face hardening. "Maybe I was going too fast. Maybe it was my fault." "Maya, no." "You know what?" he said, turning to her with cold eyes. "This was a mistake, all of this. Leo is getting too attached to you, and I lost perspective." Maya felt as if she had been slapped. "What are you talking about? You're my employee, Maya. Nothing more. And I think we both forgot that for a moment." The words came out crueler than Mr. Thorne intended, but fear and guilt had taken control of his mind. Maya looked at him with pain and disappointment. "You're right," she said, her voice breaking. "For a moment, I forgot my place here." She picked up her bag and headed for the door. "Maya, wait." "No," she said without turning. "Tomorrow we'll talk about Leo's therapy schedule. Professionally." Mr. Thorne was left alone in the kitchen, hating himself, but feeling unable to stop the self-destructive pattern he had adopted since the accident. Upstairs, Leo heard the door close and wondered why, once again, the people who made his dad happy always ended up leaving. The truth revealed and a path to forgiveness. The following days at the Thorne household were tense and cold. Mr. Thorne had returned to his old patterns, leaving early, coming home late, and when he was present, maintaining a professional distance with Maya that hurt more than any shout. "Good morning, Ms. Ramirez," Mr. Thorne said that Tuesday morning, using the formal tone he'd abandoned weeks ago. "How's Leo's progress?" Maya, who was preparing therapy materials, didn't even look up. "Within normal parameters, Mr. Thorne," she replied with the same coolness. "Though he has shown some regression in his motivation since the weekend." Leo, sitting in his chair amidst the tension, looked at them both with confusion and pain. "Why are you talking like that?" he finally asked. "You sound like strangers." "Because that's what we are, Leo," Mr. Thorne replied without looking at him. "Ms. Ramirez is your therapist, nothing more." Leo's face crumpled. "But on Friday we played astronauts and we all laughed." "It was an exception," Mr. Thorne cut in. "I need you to focus on your therapy, and I need to focus on work." Maya felt a knife twist in her chest at Leo's pained expression, but she maintained her professional composure. "Leo," she said softly, "how about we start with some strengthening exercises?" "I don't want to," Leo mumbled, crossing his arms. "I don't want to do anything." Mr. Thorne headed for the door, but his son's voice stopped him. "You don't love me anymore, Dad." Mr. Thorne tensed, but didn't turn around. "Of course I love you, Leo. That's why I need to work, to give you the best." "But you already had the best," Leo whispered. "We had Maya, and we were happy, and now everything is broken again." Mr. Thorne left the room without responding, leaving Leo in tears and Maya struggling to hold back hers. During the therapy session, Leo barely cooperated. He refused to participate in any activity that required creativity or fun, responding only with monosyllables. "Do you want to talk about what's happening?" Maya asked gently. Leo looked at her with eyes full of sadness. "Are you leaving too?" "Why do you ask that?" "Because it always happens," Leo said. "Dad gets happy, then he gets scared and angry, and then people leave. Like Mom." Maya knelt in front of him. "Leo, your mom didn't leave because your dad got angry. She got sick." "I know," he interrupted. "But after the accident, Dad became like a ghost. And when you arrived, he became my real dad again. But now he's a ghost again." Maya felt her heart break as she heard the painful wisdom in the child's words. "Sometimes adults get scared when good things happen," she explained. "They're afraid of suffering again." "Are you scared?" Leo asked. Maya nodded honestly. "Yes, I'm scared. But you know what scares me more? Giving up before trying." Leo looked at her with curiosity. "What do you mean?" "That maybe your dad needs time to remember that he deserves to be happy. And maybe I need to be braver." That afternoon, Mr. Thorne returned later than usual, hoping to avoid any casual encounter with Maya, but he found her in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Where's Mrs. Henderson?" he asked without looking at her. "I gave her the afternoon off," Maya replied. "Leo asked for paella for dinner." "You didn't have to stay," Mr. Thorne said, loosening his tie with tense gestures. "Leo asked me to stay," she responded. "And unlike some people, I don't say no to that child when he needs me." Mr. Thorne felt the insinuation like a slap. "You're out of line. Out of line." Maya turned to him, her eyes blazing. "Do you know what's out of line, Edward? A father who emotionally abandons his child every time things get difficult. Don't you understand?" "Don't I understand what?" he interrupted. "That you're scared? That you're terrified of being vulnerable again? Believe me, I understand perfectly. I also lost my family. I also know what pain is." Mr. Thorne clenched his fists. "This is different. I caused Leo's accident. I put him in that wheelchair." "That's not true." "Yes, it is," Mr. Thorne shouted. "I was driving that night. I decided to go out in the rain. I ruined my son's life." At that moment, Leo appeared in his chair at the kitchen entrance, his face pale. "Dad," he said, his voice trembling, "I need to tell you something." Mr. Thorne turned, quickly wiping his eyes. "Leo, it's not the time." "Yes, it is the time," Leo interrupted, approaching them. "I've waited a long time to tell you this." Maya dried her hands and approached the boy, offering silent support. "Dad," Leo continued, his voice firmer. "I remember everything about the accident." Mr. Thorne froze. "What?" "I remember it was raining very hard. I remember you were driving slowly because you couldn't see well. And I remember the other car ran the red light." Leo's words fell like bombs in the silence of the kitchen. "Leo, you don't have to?" "Yes, I do," the boy interrupted, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Because you think it was your fault, but it wasn't your fault, Dad. The other man ran the red light. You braked, but you couldn't stop in time because it was very wet." Mr. Thorne slowly approached his son, his legs trembling. "Why? Why did you never tell me this?" Leo sobbed. "Because after the accident you got very sad, and I thought if I talked about the accident you would get even sadder. And then so much time passed that I didn't know how to tell you anymore." Mr. Thorne knelt in front of his son's chair, taking his small hands in his. "Leo, my love, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for abandoning you, for being absent, for making you carry this secret." "I don't blame you, Dad," Leo whispered. "But I missed you so much. I missed my dad who played with me and made me laugh. Mr. Thorne hugged his son tightly, feeling years of guilt begin to release from his chest. Maya watched the scene with tears in her eyes, maintaining a respectful distance, but ready to offer support if they needed it. I promise, Mr. Thorne murmured against Leo's hair, that I will never abandon you like that again. I promise I will be the dad you deserve. Leo clung to him, feeling for the first time in 2 years that his family could heal. When they finally separated, Mr. Thorne looked at Maya with eyes full of gratitude and regret. Maya, shoo, she said softly. Now the important thing is that you two are okay. But Mr. Thorne knew he had a lot to repair, and that perhaps he had already lost his chance with the woman who had saved his family. A new chapter begins, forgiveness and a future. The days following the moment of revelation were like waking from a 2-year nightmare. Mr. Thorne took a full week off work, for the first time since the accident, dedicating himself completely to reconnecting with Leo and processing the truth his son had silently carried. You know what, Dad? Leo said as they had breakfast together in the garden. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying a very heavy suitcase and finally put it down. Mr. Thorne smiled, pouring more orange juice into his son's glass. I feel that way too, champ, like I can breathe again. Maya watched from the kitchen, maintaining her professional distance, but feeling relieved to see the transformation in both of them. Mr. Thorne no longer had that constant tension in his shoulders, and Leo had regained the sparkle in his eyes. Good morning, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Thorne greeted when she approached with the therapy materials. How do you plan to torture my son today? It was an attempt at a joke, but Maya maintained her professional tone. Basic strengthening exercises and coordination work, she replied formally. Leo looked between the two adults with frustration. Are you two going to keep acting like strangers forever? He asked. Because it's really weird. Mr. Thorne and Maya looked at each other briefly before looking away. Leo, things are complicated between adults, Maya explained. No, they're not, Leo retorted with the brutal honesty of a 12-year-old. You two like each other, I know it. Dad's happier when you're here, and you smile differently when he's around. Mr. Thorne cleared his throat uncomfortably. Leo, Maya and I need to have some private conversations before. Before what? An unknown voice asked from the garden entrance. Everyone turned to see an elegant woman in her mid-40s accompanied by a man in a suit. Sophia? Mr. Thorne stood up, surprised. What are you doing here? Sophia Miller, the woman from the other vehicle in the accident, approached with determined steps. Her face showed a mix of determination and something that looked like pain. I've come to talk to you, Edward. About the lawsuit, about the accident, about everything, she said, briefly looking at Leo. And I think your son should hear this too. Maya instinctively moved closer to Leo's chair, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. Sophia, if you're here to blame my son for something he didn't do, I'm not here to blame him, Sophia interrupted. I'm here to apologize. Silence spread through the garden. The lawyer accompanying her seemed uncomfortable. Mrs. Miller, perhaps we should reconsider. No, Sophia said firmly. I've kept silent for 2 years, and I can't anymore. She approached Mr. Thorne with tears in her eyes. Edward, the night of the accident, my husband had been drinking. I knew it, but I let him drive because we had argued and I was angry. When the police arrived, he was unconscious, and I lied. Mr. Thorne felt as if the ground was moving beneath his feet. What? I lied about who was driving. I said it was me because I was afraid Miguel would get arrested, that we would lose everything. Sophia continued, openly weeping. And when I found out the child was paralyzed, the guilt consumed me. But it was too late to change my story. Leo took Maya's hand, processing the woman's words. Does that mean Dad wasn't at fault for anything? He asked. Sophia turned to him with eyes full of regret. Your dad is a hero, child. The witnesses who saw the accident said he did everything possible to avoid the impact. If it hadn't been for his reflexes, both of you could have died that night. Mr. Thorne sank into his chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. Sophia, why are you telling me this now? Why the new lawsuit? Because my husband died last week, she replied. Liver cancer. His last words were that he couldn't leave in peace knowing an innocent man was carrying our guilt. Sophia's lawyer approached Mr. Thorne. Mr. Thorne, Mrs. Miller wants to withdraw all lawsuits and is willing to testify about the truth of what happened that night. We also want to offer you compensation for emotional distress and medical expenses. Mr. Thorne looked at his son, who watched him with hopeful eyes. I don't want your money, he finally said. I just want the truth to be known. Sophia nodded, wiping away her tears. There's something else, she said. I've been in therapy these 2 years, trying to deal with my guilt. My psychologist helped me understand that sometimes forgiveness is the only thing that can set us free. She approached Leo, kneeling in front of his chair. Child, could you forgive a very silly lady who made a terrible mistake out of fear? Leo looked at Maya, who nodded encouragingly, then at his father, who smiled proudly. My dad says we all make mistakes, Leo replied wisely. The important thing is to fix them when we can. Sophia smiled through her tears. You are a very wise child. After Sophia and her lawyer left, the family remained in the garden, processing everything that had happened. Dad, Leo said, this means you don't have to feel guilty anymore. Mr. Thorne knelt in front of his son, taking his hands. It means I can finally forgive myself and be the dad I always wanted to be for you. Leo smiled. And does it mean you can be happy with Maya? Mr. Thorne looked at Maya, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. That depends on whether she can forgive a very silly man who hurt her out of fear. Can you both give me another chance? He asked, vulnerability in every word. Leo extended his arms toward both adults. Family hug. Mr. Thorne and Maya embraced Leo, and for the first time in days, allowed themselves to be close to each other again. We still have a lot to talk about, Maya murmured against Mr. Thorne's ear. We have all the time in the world, he replied, feeling for the first time in 2 years that the future was a promise, not a threat. At that moment, Mrs. Henderson appeared at the garden door with a tray of lemonade and a smile that lit up her entire face. Does anyone want to celebrate that this family is finally complete? And for the first time in a long time, everyone said yes. A proposal, a miracle, and a forever family. 2 weeks had passed since Sophia's visit, and the Thorne household breathed a tranquility it hadn't known in years. Mr. Thorne had returned to work, but now with more flexible hours that allowed him to be present for family meals and Leo's therapy sessions. Dad, can I ask you something? Leo said as they had paella that Maya had prepared for dinner. Of course, champ. What is it? When are you going to ask Maya to marry you? Mr. Thorne almost choked on his lemonade. Maya blushed to her ears. Leo, those things are complicated, Mr. Thorne replied, wiping his mouth. Why? Leo insisted with the relentless logic of a child. You love each other. I love you both. She practically lives here already. Mrs. Henderson says you just need to make official what's already obvious. Mrs. Henderson, who was serving more paella, smiled knowingly. Children and old folks always tell the truth, Mr. Thorne. It's just. Mr. Thorne began, looking nervously at Maya. There are professional protocols. Maya has her job, her visa. My visa? Maya asked, surprised. Edward, have you been investigating my immigration status? It's not that, Mr. Thorne quickly clarified. It's just that I don't want to complicate things for you. Maybe you prefer to go back to Spain someday or accept that offer from the Children's Hospital. Maya put her fork down on the plate. What offer from the Children's Hospital? Mr. Thorne realized he had said too much. Dr. Lopez called yesterday. They want to offer you the head of the pediatric physical therapy department. It's a great opportunity, Maya. I can't be selfish and ask you to turn it down for what? Maya interrupted. For you? For Leo? For this family we've built together. Leo looked between the two adults with growing concern. Is Maya leaving? Nobody's going anywhere, Maya said firmly, taking Leo's hand. But I need to talk to your dad alone. An hour later, Leo was in his room playing video games, while Mr. Thorne and Maya walked in the garden under the moonlight. Edward, do you really think I would leave now? Maya asked, stopping by the fountain. It's a great professional opportunity. You are my great opportunity, she interrupted him. You and Leo, this family, don't you understand? Mr. Thorne approached her, taking her hands. I understand, but I also understand that you have dreams, professional goals. I don't want to be the man who prevents you from growing. Maya smiled tenderly. Edward Thorne, do you know what my dream was when I arrived in this country? To survive. To find a purpose after losing my family. You gave me more than that. You gave me a new family. You gave me love. You gave me the chance to be a mother to the most wonderful boy in the world. Really? Mr. Thorne asked, hope in his voice. Really? Besides, she added with a mischievous smile, who says I can't have both? I accepted the hospital's offer, but it will be part-time work. Mornings will be for Leo, afternoons for other children who need help. Mr. Thorne looked at her in amazement. You already accepted? Yes, but with one condition. That they allow me to implement the play therapy program I developed with Leo. I want to help more families like ours. Mr. Thorne felt a wave of pride and love that almost overwhelmed him. You're incredible. Did you know that? I'm just a woman in love who found her place in the world, she replied. Mr. Thorne moved closer, taking her face in his hands. Maya Ramirez, I love you with all my heart. I love your strength, your compassion, the way you brought light back into this house. Will you marry me? Maya felt her heart overflowing with happiness. Yes, Edward, yes, I want to marry you. They kissed under the stars, a kiss full of promises and hope. But their romantic moment was interrupted by the sound of enthusiastic applause. Finally, Leo shouted from his window, Mrs. Henderson, they kissed. You can prepare the engagement cake. Mr. Thorne and Maya laughed, looking up where Leo waved from his chair by the window. Were you spying? Mr. Thorne shouted to him. Someone had to make sure you didn't let her get away, Leo responded. Now come down. We have to plan the wedding. The next day, Mr. Thorne came home early with a special surprise. He had decorated the garden with Spanish lights and flowers, creating a magical atmosphere. What is all this? Maya asked when she came out of the house. I wanted to ask you to marry me the right way, Mr. Thorne said, kneeling before her with a velvet box with witnesses and everything. Leo appeared in his chair, beaming with excitement, accompanied by Mrs. Henderson, who had tears in her eyes. Maya Ramirez, Mr. Thorne began, opening the box to reveal a beautiful ring with a diamond surrounded by sapphires. Will you be my wife and Leo's mom officially? Yes, Maya exclaimed, extending her trembling hand. Mr. Thorne put the ring on her finger and stood up to kiss her, but Leo interrupted them. Wait, I have a surprise too. Maya and Mr. Thorne turned to him, curious. What surprise? Maya asked. Leo took a deep breath, and with great effort, he pushed himself up to stand beside his chair. He took a hesitant step, then another, and another until he reached where his parents stood. I wanted to walk to you for our first hug as an official family, he said with an immense smile. Maya covered her mouth with her hands, crying with emotion. Mr. Thorne had tears streaming down his cheeks as he hugged his son. Leo, how? I've been practicing with Mrs. Henderson in the afternoons, Leo explained. I wanted to surprise you. Maya always says that miracles happen when we least expect them. The three hugged, forming a perfect circle of love and gratitude. I love you, little superhero, Maya murmured against Leo's hair. And I love you both, Leo responded. Mommy Maya and Daddy Edward. Mrs. Henderson watched from afar with a satisfied smile, knowing that after years of pain, this family had finally found its happiness. You know what? Mr. Thorne said, not letting go of his two favorite people. I think it's time to plan the most beautiful wedding this city has ever seen. Can I be the best man? Leo asked. You can be anything you want, Maya replied, kissing his forehead. You are our son. our miracle, our blessing. And in that garden full of lights and love, a family that had been born from pain and grown in hope celebrated the beginning of their forever. The everyday miracles. 8 months had passed since that magical night in the garden when Mr. Thorne proposed to Maya, and Leo took his first steps towards them. The Thorne Ramirez family's life had found its perfect rhythm, full of love, laughter, and small everyday miracles. The wedding had been celebrated in the same garden where their love story began, with Leo proudly walking down the aisle to give Maya away, fulfilling his dream of being the most important best man at the ceremony. Mrs. Henderson had cried more than all the guests combined, and to this day, she still boasted that she had been the first to realize that those two were meant for each other. "Mom, Dad," Leo shouted from the garden one sunny Saturday morning. "Come see what I can do." Mr. Thorne and Maya came out of the kitchen, he with a cup of Spanish coffee and she wiping her hands with an apron that said, "The Queen of Paella," a joke gift from Leo that had ended up being her favorite. Leo was standing next to his wheelchair, but not sitting in it. With careful but confident movements, he began to run slowly through the garden. "I'm running," he shouted with a smile that lit up his entire face. "Look, I'm really running." Maya covered her mouth with her hands, moved to tears. Mr. Thorne dropped his cup, which fortunately was plastic, and ran towards his son. "Leo, that's amazing. Dr. Lopez says I don't need the chair at all anymore," Leo explained, stopping in front of his parents. "Only to rest when I'm very tired, but I can walk and run normally now." Mr. Thorne hugged his son, feeling infinite gratitude for the life that had given them this second chance. "You know what this means?" Mr. Thorne asked. "What?" Leo asked. "That you can play soccer again." Leo's eyes lit up. "Really? Can I go back to the school team?" "You can do everything you dream of, my love," Maya said, hugging them both. That afternoon, while Leo practiced soccer in the garden with Mr. Thorne, Maya reviewed some documents in her study. Her play therapy program at the Children's Hospital had been a resounding success, and hospitals in other states had already requested her methodology. She had begun to write a book about her experience, titled Healing with Love, When Play Becomes Medicine. "What are you thinking about?" Mr. Thorne asked, entering the study with 2 glasses of lemonade. "How strange life is," Maya replied, taking her glass. 2 years ago, I came to this house fleeing pain, without family, without hope, and now you have everything you ever dreamed of," Mr. Thorne completed, sitting on the arm of her chair. "More than I dreamed," she corrected. "I never imagined I could be so happy again." Mr. Thorne leaned in to kiss her softly. "You know what my favorite part of every day is?" "What?" "Waking up and remembering that this isn't a dream, that I really have a family, a beautiful wife, an incredible son, and a future full of possibilities." "Mom! Dad!" Leo shouted from the garden. "Come!" Mrs. Henderson says a surprise arrived. They went out to the garden where Mrs. Henderson waited with a mysterious smile and a cardboard box with holes. "What's that?" Maya asked. "Leo has been asking for a sibling," Mrs. Henderson said mischievously. "And while you two haven't cooperated in that department, I thought this might be a good temporary compromise." She opened the box, and out came a 2-month-old golden retriever puppy with a red ribbon around its neck. "A dog!" Leo shouted, running towards Mrs. Henderson. "He's beautiful," Mrs. Henderson said. "His name is Miracle, because this family is full of them." Leo took the puppy in his arms, who immediately began to lick his face. "Can I keep him?" Leo asked, looking at his parents with pleading eyes. Mr. Thorne and Maya looked at each other, communicating silently as only deeply connected couples can do. "Of course," Mr. Thorne said. "But you're responsible for training him and taking care of him." "Yes," Leo exclaimed, sitting on the ground to play with Miracle. "We're going to be best friends." Maya snuggled against Mr. Thorne as they watched Leo play with his new pet in the garden where it all began. "You know what?" Mr. Thorne murmured against her hair. "Mrs. Henderson is right about the sibling thing. Maybe we should start thinking about it seriously." Maya turned in his arms with a mischievous smile. Who says I haven't been thinking about that already? Mr. Thorne looked at her with surprise and hope. Maya, it's still too early to be sure, she said, gently touching her belly. But maybe Miracle isn't the only new surprise in this family. Mr. Thorne kissed her with all the passion and gratitude he felt, as Leo laughed in the garden and the sun set over their perfect home. Sometimes, the best families aren't those born together, but those who choose to love and heal each other. And in the Thorne Ramirez household, love had triumphed over pain, hope had overcome fear, and miracles happened every day. Mrs. Henderson watched from the kitchen window, wiping her eyes with her apron, knowing that her most important job had been to help build this beautiful family. Because sometimes true love needs a little push from those who can see what scared hearts don't dare to acknowledge. And so, as night fell over the hills, a complete family prepared for all the adventures tomorrow would bring, knowing that together they could face anything, because they had learned that true love not only heals broken hearts, but also has the power to create everyday miracles for those who dare to believe in second chances. What do you think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing tales.